की जय. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving a beautiful association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna Yashomati Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving you beautiful association this morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Is there anybody else who would like to announce their name?
Hare Krishna Kirtida Sundari. Hare Krishna Shivani Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you Mataji for your warm welcoming. Thanks to all the devotees for the very beautiful mid-morning chanting. This was Preeti Vilasani Dasi from California. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Preeti Vilasani Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Thank you so much Mataji for joining this mid-morning session and giving a beautiful association this morning. Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees. I welcome you all once again to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Today we're very fortunate to have our Grace Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Mataji will be enlightening us on Sri Caitanya Bhagavata Adi Khanda 2.36 onwards. Hare Krishna Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for giving your valuable time and beautiful association this morning. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai. Please take over the call, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Shivani Mataji. Hare Krishna all the assembled devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for giving your association. So let's get started. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jayo Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Jayo Shri Chaitanya Jayo Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Jayo Shri Chaitanya Jayo Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Panchatattvat Atmom Krishna Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavtaram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namo Anand Leela Maya Vigrahaya Hema Bhadivya Chavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste आजानुलम्बित भुजौ कनकावधातौ संकीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजवरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगत्प्रियकरौ करुणावतारौ जयति जयति देवा कृष्ण चैतन्य चन्द्रो जयति जयति कीर्तिस्तस्य नित्य पवित्रा जयति जयति भृत्यास्तस्य विश्वेशमूर्तेर् जयति जयति नित्यां तस्य से सर्वप्रियाणाम्. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So I'll really seek blessings, prayers, wishes from each and every one of you so that I can speak something relevant to this subject matter, something that Vrindavan Das Thakur wants to convey, something that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, through his beautiful extensive purports, wants to convey. So please shower your blessings, prayers and wishes. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrindi ki jai. So we are in chapter number 2, and Vrindavan Das Thakur is describing, he started off with paying his obeisances to Panchatattva individually. And then he started saying about that how the same Nanda Sutta, the same son of Nanda Maharaj, came as Shri Krishna Chaitanya in this age of Kali Yuga to propagate the Yuga Dharma, that is the chanting, congregational chanting of the holy names. And then he described about the various yugas, what were the different processes that were followed. But in Kali Yuga, the only process is Harir Nam, Harir Nama, Harir Nama, Harir Nam eva kevalam, Kalau nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyata. That is the Yoga Dharma of this age of Kali Yuga. And then Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur proceeds and says that, but that Krishna Chandra, that Nanda Sutta, who came as Caitanya Chandra Dev, is not coming all by himself. He is coming with his associates, with his parshads. He doesn't come all by himself. And all the services that we perform is in group, right? In team. There is not one person, but there are many devotees who perform these services. So when Krishna Chandra comes as Caitanya Chandra Dev, he doesn't come alone. He comes with his parshad, Sango Panga Angastra. So he comes with his parshads, his associates. And some associates, are sent before Krishna Chandra comes so that they can prepare the atmosphere, the environment, the proper ground for Caitanya Chandra to take his incarnation, to come to this material world. So some associates come before, and some associates come when during Mahaprabhu is there in this material world, and some comes when Mahaprabhu winds up his pastimes so that whatever he has propagated can be sustained. So this is how the whole arrangement is made when the Supreme Lord descends. So just like Prabhupada normally gives the example that when a president of a certain country visits another country, the elaborate arrangements are being made. He comes with his own entourage, with his own army, with his own bulletproof car. And the country that he visits, elaborate arrangements are made even there. And not only, the entire hotel is booked, not only one room basically, but the entire hotel is booked where, the arrangement is made for the president to stay in. So when a mere mortal soul, like a president of a country, there is so much arrangements are to be made, then what to talk about the Supreme Personality who is descending from his eternal abode to this material abode. And it says, Nijavasam, he brings his own vas, basically his own abode he brings along. So when Krishna comes in Vrindavan, he brings the entire Golok Vrindavan to manifest. Similarly, when Chaitanya Chandradev comes, when the same Shri Krishna, when comes as Mahaprabhu, has come as Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the entire Navadvip Dham from the spiritual world descends here. So he comes with his own abode, with his own entourage. So this way Vrindavan Das Thakur is describing that how they all come, some comes before, some comes during Mahaprabhu's Leela, and some comes when Mahaprabhu winds up his pastimes. And in this regard, he quotes that, some took birth in Navadvip, some in Chattagram, some in Rardesh, and some in Orissa, and some in Srihatta. So that we have read extensively yesterday. His Grace Adi Gadadhar Prabhu was describing that who all come in Navadvip. And that then he quotes that Gadadhar Pandit, Jagannananda Pandit Goswami, Gangadas, Shukalamba Brahmachari, Sridhar, Purushottama, Hiranya and Jagadish, they all appeared in Navadvip. Hiranya and Jagadish, Prabhu was telling that they were Yagnapatnis in their previous Krishna Leela pastimes. So they come in Navadvip, and Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Vasudeva Datta, his brother Mukunda Datta, they come in Chatigram. Then Radhadesh, so actually it's mentioned Radhadesh, but in Bengali, actually the word is Radhadesh. But how you write in English, Radhadesh, Ra word is not there. So it is converted into DHA. So therefore you'll see when the English transliteration is there, it says that some in Radhadesh, which is also okay, because it's the name of Srimati Radharani. But when we pronounce, it is Radhadesh. So who comes in Radhadesh? In one of the village in Radhadesh, which is Ekachakra, Shri Nithyananda Ram appears. Along with Vasudev Ghosh, Haridas, Shri Govinda, Shri Madhava, Shri Vaninath Brahmachari, they all appear in Radhadesh. And then in Orissa, we know that Shri Ramananda Rai, Shri Vaninath. So Bhavananda Rai, who is Pandu with all his 5 sons, he appears in Odisha. And then Sri Hatta and then Paschime. So Sri Hatta, Srivas Pandit along with all their 4 brothers, then Chandrasekhar Acharya, Jagannath Mishra, Advaita Prabhu, they all appeared in Sri Hatta. And Paschime means the west of Bengal. That is Trihut, which in Sanskrit, this place is named as Tribhukti. But colloquial language, they call it as Trihut, where Sripad Paramananda Puri and Sri Raghupati Upadhyaya, they all appeared. So Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying, Nana sthane avatirna haila bhaktagana. So these bhaktagana, these devotees, they appear at Nana sthana. Nana sthana means at various places. They appeared, avatirna, they incarnated, they appeared in different places. But Navadvip Ashi Haila Sabara Milina. But when it comes to gather, together when they want to gather around, they come in Navadvip. So Navadvip becomes their central point to meet each other. And there they joined this Sankirtan movement by Shri Chaitanya Dev. So after describing this now, Vrindavan Das Thakur wants to describe about, so he described about Navadvip, he described about Srivas Pandit, Shri Chandrasekhar Acharya. He also described about Bhavaroga Vaidya, that is Murari Gupta. And after describing all that, now he wants to describe about Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and who appeared at Chatigram. And then he wants to describe about Chaitanya Vallabh, Haridas Thakur, Nityananda Prabhu, and Paramananda Puri. So he wants to describe those major associates of Mahaprabhu who appeared in Navadvip, nearby areas, and just to help to assist Mahaprabhu in his Sankirtan movement. So what we will do today is we'll cover only from verse 36 to 43, where few associates are being described, that where they appear and what are the pastimes, the major pastimes Of course, in detail, the pastimes will be dealt in further chapters of Caitanya Bhagavata, but just a crux, to know that who they are, what is the importance, how they assisted Mahaprabhu. We'll go deep into it. And then from tomorrow onwards, we'll see that how Vrindavan Das Thakur describes the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I was thinking that this is such an apt point where down the line, few weeks ahead, is Gaur Purnima, the holy appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And during that time, we will be dealing with all the appearance of Mahaprabhu and his childhood pastimes. So it's such a wonderful thing that we are in that context where the appearance of Mahaprabhu will be described. Okay, so we'll move on to verse number 36 and 37, which are together. I'm not sharing the screen, I'm just directly reading from the book. So maybe you all have the e-versions or hard copies, you can go ahead with it. And even if you are busy in something, just lend your ears, that will be enough. Thank you. Pundarika Vidyanidhi Vaishnava Pradhana Chaitanya Vallabha Datta Vasudeva Nama Chati Grame Haila Iha Sabara Prakasha Buddhane Haila Avatirna Haridasa. So Vrindavan Das Thakur, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur is describing about now Pundarika Nidyanidhi. And he's saying this Pundarika Nidyanidhi is the topmost Vaishnava. I would like someone to unmute and say, who was Pundarik Vidyanidhi in his Krishna Leela pastimes?
Rishabhanu Maharaj.
Yes, it was Rishabhanu Maharaj. Very nice. So Pundarik Nidyanidhi, who is also known as Acharya Nidhi, and very lovingly been given the name by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Prema Nidhi. Nidhi means the wealth, and Prema means love. So he was always endowed with the wealth of Krishna Prema. So Nidhi also means like a storehouse wealth, of storehouse of wealth. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Kavi Karnapura in his Gaur Ganesh Dishtipika describes that he was Vrishabhanu, King Vrishabhanu Maharaj. So we'll just see a little bit about Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and then we'll move forward about the other Vaishnavas that is described in this verse. So he's saying that Pundarik Nidyanidhi, who is the topmost Vaishnava, along with Chaitanya Vallabh and Vasudeva Dutt, all three of them appeared in Chhattigram. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he, when he first arrived in Navadvip, he disguised himself as a worldly sense enjoyer, So, he was very, very opulent, very rich personality, very, very opulent, to an extent that, his bed was made up of brass, covered with satin, red color satin sheets, and he wears silk garments himself, and even his pillows were made up of silk, and he has 3-tiered canopy around his bed. And he used to chew that pan, betel nuts, and that pan box, it was also so much gem-studded, and there were so much fragrant spices and betel nuts there. And, he was basically very, very opulent, very, very opulent. So once what happened, Mukunda, he took Srila Gadadhar Pandit with him, and he said, I want to introduce to you to this topmost Vaishnava. So Mukunda himself knows that how he is Prema Nidhi, how he is Acharya Nidhi, how he is the topmost Vaishnava. He's always absorbed in Krishna Prema. But he wants to introduce him to Gadadhar Pandit. So he took Gadadhar Pandit with him. And Gadadhar Pandit, when he first saw Pundarik Vidyanidhi in Navadvip, he was bewildered seeing his opulency. He was thinking, what kind of Vaishnava is he? There were so much doubts that arose in the mind of Gadadhar Pandit about Pundarik Vidyanidhi's spiritual status. Because normally we see that those who are materially so opulent, they are not that spiritually great. because this material opulences and spiritual opulences doesn't go hand in hand. I'm not saying that it's always, but normally in some cases. So even Gadadhar Pandit also, he doubt the spiritual status of Pundarik Vidyanidhi by seeing his opulence. And Mukunda could, sense that Gadadhar Pandit mind is getting bewildered. So just to show that how Pundarik Vidyanidhi is actually really a Prema Nidhi, is actually absorbed always in Krishna Prem, he recited beautiful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, and he said that always hankering, I'm just reading the translation, always hankering to taste the blood of small children, Putana came to kill baby Krishna. However, because she offered her breast to the Supreme Lord, Putana attained the greatest blessing of being accepted as a mother, as a dhatri, as a nurse of Lord Shri Krishna in his eternal abode, Golok Vrindavan. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter number 6, verse number 35. Now, as soon as Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard this verse from the mouth of Mukunda Dutt, hearing this verse, he got totally transformed to an extent that tears were flowing from his eyes. He started developing ecstatic symptoms of, his hairs were standing, the hairs were standing on their end. And he was so much mesmerized on hearing this verse that, he ripped off all the embroidery that was there on his silk kurta, on his silk shirt. And he ripped off all his beddings, and he finally felt unconscious on the ground, thinking that my Lord, my Supreme Lord, my Krishna Chandra is so merciful that a lady who has come to kill him just because of a gesture of giving her milk to feed Krishna, giving Krishna her breast milk, Krishna accepted her as a mother and gave a Uchita destination, giving that Uchita position in the Golok Vrindavan as his nurse, as a mother. So seeing this, hearing this verse and thinking of how merciful Lord Shri Krishna is, Pundarik Vidyanidhi started depicting all the symptoms of ecstatic prema. Now, seeing all this, witnessing all these transcendental feelings, Gadadhar Pandit realized that what a great offense he committed at the lotus feet of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. To counteract that offense that he committed, he decided that let me take initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And we know that Pundarik Vidyanidhi is actually Vrishabhanu Maharaj, and our Gadadhar Pandit is Dviti, is a luster of Srimati Radharani, non-different from Srimati Radharani. So rectify his mistake, actually, he wanted now to take initiation from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So this Pundarik Vidyanidhi, we have read in Caitanya Charitamrita also, right? Yeah, that how Gadadhar Pandit, he accepted Pundarik Vidyanidhi as his spiritual master. And in Antyalila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, just I want to connect, who the personality is, that how, remember that Vallabha came and he was blaspheming Sridhar Swami, who is the original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. And Mahaprabhu said, I don't want to hear all this. But before that, he just want to present his own thing, that how expert he is in Sanskrit grammar. And but Mahaprabhu knew his heart, that he is such an offender. And Mahaprabhu said that I don't want to hear. I just want to know about Krishna. I don't want to hear anything else about Narayan or about any other things. But he wanted to prove his Sanskrit grammar. So he normally goes to the house of Gadadhar Pandit. And Gadadhar Pandit also doesn't want to hear, because if someone is rejected by Mahaprabhu, then how come its associates can accept? So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya Sarup Damodar Goswami in Nilachal actually warned Gadadhar Pandit that, why are you lending your ears to this personality when Mahaprabhu has rejected? But forcefully, this person, Vallabha, used to come at Gadadhar Prabhu's home and used to recite all his Sanskrit text and grammars and poetry that he writes. And to an extent that one time he, basically in the association of all the devotees, he got transformed. And this Vallabha is same as the teacher of Vallabha Sampradaya, the Vallabha Acharya. And later he transformed, and he took actually initiation from Gadadhar Pandit. So when Gadadhar Pandit, he recited that initiation mantra, somehow after giving that initiation and reciting initiation mantras in front of Vallabhacharya, though he got transformed, but Gadadhar Pandit felt that he had stopped feeling any further realizations. So no further realizations are coming. So he requested Mahaprabhu that I have somehow given my initiation mantra, but now I'm not getting any kind of realization while chanting those mantras. So can you please repeat those mantras to me again? Then my mind will be joyful. So he requested Mahaprabhu to say the same mantras into his ears so that, it gets refreshed and all the realizations can come. At that time, Mahaprabhu said that, oh Gadadhar, I can give you my life, but what are you talking about? How can I say those mantras into your ears when your spiritual master is present on this planet? And Gadadhar Pandit said that, but he's not here. He's not in Nilachal. He's not in Jagannath Puri. So how will I ask him to recite those mantras again into my ears? At that time, Mahaprabhu said that don't worry, within 10 days, Pundarik Vidyanidhi will come in Jagannath Puri, and you will get the opportunity to meet your spiritual master. And at that time, you can request him so that he can recite those mantras into your ear. So 10 days later, then Pundarik Vidyanidhi happens to come, and Mahaprabhu was so happy seeing the Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And it is described that Mahaprabhu considered Pundarik Vidyanidhi as his bap. So as soon as Pundarik Vidyanidhi came, so Mahaprabhu says, Vidyanidhi dekhi Prabhu hasi tela gila, bapa aila bali tela gila. So when the Lord saw Pundarik Vidyanidhi coming, he smiled and he said, oh, my father has come, my father has come. So this way, Mahaprabhu considered Pundarik Vidyanidhi as his father because he was very elderly in his age. And of course, because Pundarik Vidyanidhi was a direct disciple of Madhavendra Puri, and Madhavendra Puri's disciple is also Ishvara Puri, who is the spiritual master of Mahaprabhu. So you see the connection. He considered him as his spiritual master also, because Ishvara Puri and Pundarik Vidyanidhi, they were god brothers because both of them were initiated by Sripad Madhavendra Puri. So Mahaprabhu would always regard Pundarik Vidyanidhi as also his spiritual master. So, seeing Mahaprabhu, even this Pundarik Vidyanidhi would have also became overwhelmed in ecstatic love, and his heart was filled with great auspiciousness. Then what happened is Gadadhar Pandit finally paid obeisances, and he took the opportunity to lovingly accept mantra initiation again from Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Now, in purport of this verse of Caitanya Bhagavata, Vrindavan, Vishwanath, I'm so sorry, Shripad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, he writes that how Pundarik Vidyanidhi, his mother's name was Ratnavati and his father's name was Baneshwara. So in bracket, it's written that in others' opinion, it was Shukalamba Brahmachari. So we have to understand that actually his father's name was Baneshwara. And even if it says that some says that his name was Shukalambra Brahmachari. So this Shukalambra Brahmachari was not the same that we see during Mahaprakash Leela or the Shuklamba Brahmachari that assisted Mahaprabhu in his Sankirtan movement. These are two different personalities, even though their name might be same, but they are two different personalities. The Shuklamba Brahmachari who assisted Mahaprabhu in Sankirtan movement was actually very, very poverty stricken, but he has so much love for Mahaprabhu, so much love for Krishna Nam, that he assisted Mahaprabhu in his Sankirtan movement, and Mahaprabhu was also very pleased seeing Shuklamba Brahmachari. And we all know that how during Mahaprakash Leela, Mahaprabhu revealed the identity, the spiritual identity of Shuklamba Brahmachari as Sudama. So, but this, I don't know why they have written it, but even if they have written that the father of Pundarik Vidyanidhi was Shuklamba Brahmachari, he is not the same. Okay, that we have to, make notice of. And his mother name was Ganga Devi. His wife was Ratnavati, father was Baneshwara, and his mother's name was Ganga Devi. So then Prabhu writes, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes about the description of this Pundarika Nidyanidhi, that how he was very, very dear friend of Sarup Damodar Goswami, and how he got slaps on his cheeks by Shri Jagannath Dev. So we'll deal into this pastime. It's a very, very beautiful pastime, but I'll not go into much detail, but high level I'll tell. So when Pundarik Nidyanidhi, he came to Nilachal to meet Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu was very happy, and Mahaprabhu told Pundarik Nidyanidhi that why don't you stay here for a few days? And Pundarik Nidyanidhi accepted it, and later, as we know, that how he recited those initiation mantras into the ear of Gadadhar Pandit as per his request. So one day what happened, it was December time, and in December it's very cold, you all know. So, at that time there is a very beautiful festival that happens in Jagannath Puri, that is the Orna Shashti festival. In Orna Shashti, Shashti means the 6th day. So actually it's the 6th day of the waxing moon in the month of December. And this goes on for full 1 month. So when the month starts, that is on the 6th day of that month. On the 6th day onwards, when the winter season starts, Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra Mai, they are given some woolen shawls, Orna Shashti, right? So they are given the woolen shawls to protect them from the cold weather. So it was at that time Mahaprabhu took all his devotees along with Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Sarup Damodar Goswami. Everybody was there, and they went to see this festival of Orna Shashti. So after seeing that outfit that was being offered to Jagannath Dev, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came back to his place, and everybody, went back to their places, to their respective houses. But Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Sarup Damodar Goswami, they were very close friends, so they stayed back. And very beautiful description is given that how fine white, yellow, and blue silk clothes were decorated with pearls and gold, and they were offered to the deity at that time. So after Lagana, Jagannath was dressed in such a way, after they saw that festival, Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Sarup Damodar Goswami, when they were left behind, Pundarik Vidyanidhi started finding faults in those pandas. So they both, he disclosed his mind to Sarup Damodar Goswami because he was his very dear friend. And he said that how come these pandas, they are offering these starched clothes, the clothes which are not washed, the silk, the cotton, when you don't wash, they are quite starchy, very stiff. And it is said, as per the Smriti Shastras, that starched clothes should not be offered to the Supreme Lord. And what to talk about not offering to the Supreme Lord, even when we wear and we do a kind of a deity worship, at that time also we should not wear the starched clothes. Means unwashed saris, or dhotis, we should not wear. That starch should be taken out means it should be properly washed, ironed, and then it has to be worn. But they offered directly the fresh starched clothes to Lord Jagannath. So Pundarik Vidyanidhi developed that doubt, and in confidential, he shared that to Swarup Damodar Goswami. Swarup Damodar Goswami said, see Pundarik, please listen. Why you are finding that fault in those pandas? Because this has been a custom of this place. It's happening from years. So just leave it. Why you are commenting on it? But, Pundarik Vidyanidhi said that, okay, I do agree that the Supreme Brahman has incarnated in the form of Lord Jagannath. So for Lord, it's okay, even if they are offering. But why they themselves are wearing starched clothes? How come the king of that area, he wore that starched cloth as a turban on his head and doing that puja? So how come the pandas are wearing? First of all, even the Lord should not be offered. And even if they have offered to the Lord, why they themselves are wearing? Because Pundarik Vidyanidhi said that, it is an offense rather, not offense, rather, it's basically not correct to even touch those unwashed clothes for the pujaris or for the priest, especially who are doing their direct seva to Jagannath. They should not even touch the unwashed clothes. So how come they are offering it to the Jagannath, and not only that, they themselves are wearing? But still, Swarup Damodar Goswami said that, oh, please listen. I don't think so that there is any fault in this Orna Shashti festival, because this festival has been carried out for past many years. So just leave it. Just don't comment on it. But, Pundarik Nityananda said that at least they should have some proper etiquettes. But anyways, then both the friends, they discussed and they started laughing on those pandas, and then they left. At that night, what happened? Pundarik Nityanidhi was in deep sleep, and Lord Jagannath came in his dream. Now, this is Lord Jagannath, means Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who is omniscient, because he took everyone to witness this Orna Shashti festival. And he could sense that Pundarik Vidyanidhi is doubting the devotion of pandas. So he took the form of Lord Jagannath and Baladev, and they came in the dream of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So as soon as this Vidyanidhi, he saw Krishna, he saw Jagannath and Baladev, he was quite bewildered. And then what they did is they caught hold of Vidyanidhi, and Jagannath started slapping on his face in a very angry mood. And both of them, then Balaram also started slapping on his cheek to an extent that his cheeks were swollen, and they were bearing that impression of their fingers on his cheeks. And it is described by Vrindavan Das Thakur that they basically, for 2 dandas, that is for 48 minutes, they were beating Vidyanidhi. They were slapping him. And at that time, the Lord said that, how come you can find faults, in my pandas? Then there is no end to your offenses. You better go out from this place. If you want to find faults in my pandas, then just leave Jagannath Puri and, elaborate in detail about all these Smriti, Shruti, Shastras somewhere else, but don't comment anything in this Jagannath Puri. He said, I have inaugurated this traditional observance of this festival. So how can you think that there is any improper behavior in it? So Vidyanidhi, he felt really sorry and really was in great fear. And then he said, please forgive me all my offenses. And I'm the most sinful person. I'm most degraded. And therefore I apologize. So then Lord replied that actually by slapping you, by personally coming you, touching your cheek, slapping you, I have shown mercy on you. I have bestowed immense mercy on you, for I consider you as my servant. So after seeing this dream, Pundarik Vidyanidhi woke up and he saw the slap marks on his cheeks, and then he started laughing because he was thinking that on one side, yes, he committed an offense, but on other side, that how Jagannath himself came along with his brother Baladev, and they both beat him, slapped him. So his cheeks were so much swollen from the slapping of the lotus hands of the Supreme Lord. And he thought that I have received the apt punishment for my offense. So this Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Sarup Damodar Goswami, they both used to go together early in the morning to have darshan of Lord Jagannath. And on that day, because his cheeks were swollen and he couldn't go. So at that time, Sarup Damodar Goswami came to the house of Pundarik Vidyanidhi and inquired, like, what happened? Why didn't you come today? You regularly come. Every morning you come with me to see Jagannath. Why were you not there today? And that time, Vidyanidhi replied that, come, I sit down, I want to explain you everything. And then he explained that how in his dream, Jagannath and Baldev came and they were slapping him for 2 dandas, about 48 minutes, and how his cheeks were swollen. And there are, finger marks, the slap marks on his cheeks. And Sarup Damodar Goswami said, what is this? Your cheeks are so swollen and, you must be feeling so much of hurt. But then he said, no, I have criticized the devotees, so they both slapped me. But I feel that this is the apt punishment they have given, because from my mouth only I blasphemed those pandas, and now I have got apt punishment on my mouth only, that all my cheeks, my lips, they all are swollen badly. And then he said, I didn't come with you because, it is not proper to tell everybody about this incident. But oh, Sarup Damodar Goswami, you are my best friend, so I'm revealing this incident to you. And finally, they both, after hearing this entire pastime, they both started floating in great ecstasy of Krishna Prem, that how Jagannath himself came and gave apt punishment to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. So this is what is being described in the purport also. Moving forward, this is about Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Then he said about Caitanya Vallabh. So Caitanya Vallabh was also one of the devotee of Gadadhar Pandit, who also appeared in Chhattagram. Now here he writes that actually there is a difference of opinion. Some says that he's talking about Caitanya Vallabh, but others says that Caitanya Vallabh means dear. So they are also talking about Caitanya Vallabh means one who is very dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was Vasudeva Datta. So it was Vasudeva Datta who also appeared in Chhattagram. And we know, as per Gaur Ganesh Desh Deepika, that Vasudeva Datta and Mukunda Datta, they were 2 singers in Krishna Leela as Madhukanta and Madhuvrata. Right? And they appeared as Mukunda and Vasudev in Chaitanya Leela. And this Vasudeva Datta is the same person, same personality who requested Mahaprabhu that I want to suffer for the sinful activities of all the people of this world. And this is the same Vasudeva Datta who gave shelter to Narayani Devi. Remember, in the very first class we discussed that how Narayani Devi, who was the niece of Srivas Thakur, she got married and she went to Mamgachi. But unfortunate condition happened. Her husband died untimely. And then along with Vrindavan Das Thakur, at that time Vrindavan Das Thakur was very young. She took Vrindavan Das Thakur and came back to Navadvip. And she came back and she came to the house of Srivas Thakur. But Srivas Thakur, along with his brothers, they all said that we are also planning to leave Navadvip. Ever since Mahaprabhu took sannyas, Now it's very hard for us to reside in this place. Why? Because Mahaprabhu would come and do, his nocturnal Sankirtan in the house of Srivas Thakur. So practically every nook and corner of that house reminded them of Mahaprabhu. So they said that it's so hard for them to bear this separation. So we ourselves are planning to move out from this place. And at that time, Srivas Thakur made this arrangement that they both, Narayani Devi and Vrindavan Das Thakur, were sent back to Mamagachi in Chattigram, and there they stayed, in the house of Vasudeva Datta. So basically, Vrindavan Das Thakur was brought up in the association of Vasudeva Datta. So his disciple is Yadunandana Acharya, and we know who is Yadunandana Acharya. This Vasudev Datta Thakur, his disciple is Yadunandana Acharya, and he's the same one who is the spiritual master of Raghunath Das Goswami. Remember that we know this pastime, that how Yadunandana Acharya one night came to Raghunath Das Goswami and told him that, one of my priests has gone. So either you take up this service or you go home to that priest and request. And Raghunath Das Goswami said to his master, to his spiritual master, that you go home and, don't worry, I'll take care. And somehow I'll go to the house of that priest and request him to resume his services. And that night he went to that home, the priest home, and told him, but also got the opportunity to flee away from his material world. And he went to Puri. So this Yadunandana Acharya is the direct disciple of Vasudev Datta Thakur. Then Haridas Thakur is being described, that how Haridas Thakur appeared in the village named Budhana, which is also from Chhattisgarh. Moving on to next verse. Rada maje eka chakka name acha grama yani avatina Nityananda Bhagavana. So the Supreme Lord Nityananda Prabhu appeared in the village of Ekachakra in Radhadesh. So before describing the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vrindavan Das Thakur wants to take this opportunity to first describe the presence, the auspicious appearance of Nityananda Prabhu, who is also his spiritual master in Ekachakra Dham in Radhadesh. And we all know that Nityananda Prabhu appeared 12 years ahead of Mahaprabhu. So before Mahaprabhu appeared, 12 years before Nityananda Prabhu, he appeared in the village known as Ekachakra, which is in Radhadesh. Hadai Pandita Nama Shuddha Vipra Raja Mule Sarva Pita Tane Kare Pita Vyaja. The exalted Hadai Pandit was the king of the Brahmanas, who accepted the role as the father of Lord Nityananda, who is the original father of all. So Hadai Pandit, who is also known as Hada Oja, was born in a Maithila Brahmana family, and his name was Padmavati. Although Lord Shri Nityananda Prabhu is the father of all universes, he's Balaram, and the Vaikunthas, the living entities, and the Vishnu Tattvas, but still when he appeared in this material world, he accepted Hadai Pandit as his father. So we all know, and everybody I think so should memorize these 12 names of Nityananda Prabhu. So we'll recite, because since this topic of Nityananda Ram came in, so I was thinking that it's so apt to recite these 12 names of Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Avatendur Vasudha Prana Vallabha Janavi Jivati Pati Krishna Prema Pradap Prabhu Padmavati Sutta Shriman Sachinandana Purvaja Bhavon Majjagatrata Rakta Kaura Galevara. So these are the 12 names of Lord Nityananda. One is, we'll go one by one and we'll see the meanings also. First of all, it is said that anyone who recites these 12 names of Nityananda early in the morning, then, one can become free from all kind of difficulties, and one will very soon be the recipient of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Nityananda Avatendur, first name is Nityananda. That means he is the embodiment of eternal bliss, Nitya Ananda. He is always floating in the ecstasy of Krishna Prem, in the eternal bliss. So he is Nityananda, right? And Avatendur. Avatendur means that he is Avatuta. He is the moon. He is the Indu means moon. So he is the moon of all Avadutas, or you can say he is the crest jewel of all Avadutas. Vasudha Prana Vallabha. Vasudha is the wife of Shri Nityananda Prabhu. So two names we saw, Nityananda and Avathendu. The third name is Vasudha Prana Vallabha, that he is the life and soul of whom? Of Vasudha Devi. Then fourth is Janavi Jivati Patihi. Patihi means the master, the Lord. He is the Lord of the life air of Janava Devi. So Janava Devi cannot survive without Nityananda Prabhu, right? She is, and Nityananda Prabhu, then he says, fourth we say, Krishna Prema Prada. Prada means to provide, to give. So he is always giving Krishna Prem to everyone whomsoever he meets. So we saw the 5 names. Sixth name is Prabhu. We all know that how Nityananda Ram is regarded as Prabhu, whereas Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is regarded as Mahaprabhu. So the sixth name is Prabhu, which means the Lord, the Master, right? Padmavati Sutaha. So he is Padmavati Sutaha. We just now read that how he is the son of Padmavati Devi. So Suta means son. He is the son of Padmavati. Seventh. Eighth is Shriman. Shriman means that he is endowed with Lakshmi. Shri means Lakshmi, but here Shri also means the transcendental ecstasy. So he's always endowed with Shriman. He's always endowed with transcendental ecstasy. And then it says Shachi Nandana Purvaja. Sachi Nandan means the son of Mother Shachi, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purvaja means he appeared before Mahaprabhu appeared in this material world. So he is the older brother, the elder brother of Mahaprabhu. Bhavon Matta, which is the 10th name in this verse. So Bhavon Matta means, Unmatta means mad. He is always mad with bhavas, with the transcendental ecstasies. So Bhavan Unmatta. So it says Bhavon Matta. Jagatrata means he is the savior of all the entities, living entities of this universe. Jagatrata. Rakta Gaura Kalevara. The 12th name is that his complexion is gold, but it is tinged with red. Kumkum. Rakta means red. So he's tinged with little reddish kumkum, and that is his bodily luster, Kalevara, right? So these are the 12 names. I'll repeat again. Nityananda Vatendur Vasudha Prana Vallabha Janavahi Jivati Pati Krishna Prema Prada Prabhu Padmavati Suta Shriman Shachi Nandana Purvaja Bhavon Mad Jagatrata Rakta Gaura Kalevara. So these are the 12 names of Nityananda Prabhu. Make sure you all memorize it. And if not, then at least try to recite every day in the morning. Vrindavan Das Thakur is continuing. Shri Nityananda Ram, Kripa Sindhu Bhakti Data Shri Vaishnava Dhama Rada Avatirna Haira Nityananda Rama. Shri Nityananda Ram is Bhakti Data. He is the ocean of mercy. Kripa Sindhu, he is Kripa Sindhu, he is the ocean of mercy, and he is Bhakti Data, he is the bestower of the devotional service, the bestower of Bhakti. Shri Vaishnava Dhama, and he is also the shelter of all the Vaishnavas. And Rada Avatirna, and he appeared in Rada Desh. His name is Nityananda Rama. Very beautiful verse. Kripa Sindhu Bhakti Data Shri Vaishnava Dhama Rada Avatirna Haila Nityananda Rama. Text 41. Mahajaya Jaya Dhvani Pushpa Vedi Shana Samagope Deva Tagane Kailena Thana. At that time, Nityananda Prabhu's appearance, when he appeared in Radhadesh, all the demigods secretly showered flowers and chanted Jai, Jai, because Nityananda Prabhu appeared. And from that day onwards, Vrindavan Das Thakur writes, Sai Dina Haitarada Mandala Shakala Puna Puna Badi Tela Gila Sumangala. From that day onwards, what happened at the land of Radadesh, Rada Mandala, what happened? Puna Puna, again and again, Lagila Sumangala, the auspicious signs, become visible. Again and again, there was auspiciousness in the entire Radadesh. And what kind of auspiciousness? Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that the entire Radadesh became a center of advanced learning and culture. And all the barren areas in that Radadesh, in Ekachakra, they all began to prosper. So this is how the auspiciousness was there. Last verse for today. Trihute Paramananda Purira Prakasha Nila Chale Yanra Sangha Ekatra Vilasa. Paramananda Puri, who enjoyed pastimes with the Lord in Nilachala, appeared at Trihuta. And starting of the class, we also saw that the Sanskrit word of Trihuta was Tira Bhakti, right? So Tira Bhakti, but in colloquial language, now they started calling as Trihuta, which is at the Paschima, means at the west corner of that Gaudadesh, West Bengal. So there, Paramananda Puri appeared. Prabhupada writes in the purport, Trihuta consists of the districts presently known as Muzaffarpur, Darbhanga, and Chhapra. And his previous ashrama, Sri Paramananda Puri, lived in Trihut. He was also the dear disciple of Sri Madhavendra Puri Path. And in the last portion of this book, various topics related to Paramananda Puri Nilachal, such as his well, are described. So we'll see now a little bit about Paramananda Puri, though again, in down the chapters of Caitanya Bhagavata, Vrindavan Das Thakur will extensively describe about Paramananda Puri. But because since the topic came up, we'll just take few minutes and we'll see who Paramananda Puri is. So the first meeting of Mahaprabhu and Paramananda Puri, it actually happened when Mahaprabhu went for his South India Yatra, and at Rishabha Parvat, they met each other, where for 3 days they were discussing about Krishna. So Krishna Katha went among both of them. And later, Paramananda Puri also took initiation from Madhavendra Puri. His Diksha Guru was Madhavendra Puri. And because of that, just like Pundarik Vidyanidhi and Advaita Acharya, Mahaprabhu also regarded this Paramananda Puri as his spiritual master, because they both were the godbrothers of Ishvara Puri, who is the spiritual master of Mahaprabhu. And it has been described that this Paramananda Puri is one of the 9 sannyasi roots of the tree of the trunk of devotion. So in Adi Leela, chapter 9, when this process of devotional service is being described, at that time, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami describes that how this entire Krishna consciousness, this bhakti, is a kind of a tree. It's a devotional tree, and the trunk of the tree is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And how does the tree comes up? There has to be some, some seed. There should be some roots, and from those roots the trunk comes, right? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is regarded as the trunk of the tree, and he is also regarded as the gardener of that tree, who is taking care of that tree, who is maintaining that tree. But the seed of that devotional tree is Madhavendra Puri. So the seed is Madhavendra Puri, and from him sprouts the 9 roots. And from those 9 roots come the tree, the devotional tree, the tree of that bhakti. And these 9 roots, they are the 9 disciples of Madhavendra Puri. And the middle or the central, the strong roots, I don't know, like you must have learned in your initial school days in the botany, that from a seed comes the main root, and from the main root comes the secondary roots, right? So there is a primary root and there is a secondary root. And from there, it sprouts up, and it sprouts in a sapling and then later turns into a tree. So that primary root, the seed when fructifies into a root, that seed is Madhavendra Puri, but then it comes into a primary root, and that primary root is actually this Paramananda Puri. And all the other 9 disciples of Madhavendra Puri are regarded as the secondary roots of that devotional tree. So this is how the position of Paramananda Puri is. So when Mahaprabhu actually returned from his South India tour to Nilachal, at that time, we all know that how Kala Krishnadas, he was condemned by Mahaprabhu because he went with some tribal woman, and Mahaprabhu grabbed his shikha and brought him back. And later when he comes back to Puri, he handed over this Kala Krishnadas to Nityananda Prabhu, and he said, now you take care of him. I don't want to see his face. He's such a disgusted. He put me in such an awkward position in South India when I was in a South India tour. And later Nityananda Prabhu, because he's Krishna Prema Pradap Prabhu, he's always giving Krishna Prem to everybody. So he didn't disregard Kala Krishnadas. Rather, he gave him more service so that Mahaprabhu may be pleased. So he sent Nityananda Ram, he sent this Kala Krishnadas to Navadvip to inform everybody that Mahaprabhu is back from his South India tour and he's back in his in Nilachal. So when Kala Krishnadas, he went at that time, this Paramananda Puri was also in Navadvip along with Mother Shachi and Advaita Charya Prabhu. And so they all were informed that how Mahaprabhu has come back from his South India tour and now he is in his Nilachal. And that time Paramananda Puri, because Mahaprabhu promised him and took promise from him that, when I go back to Nilachal, you also come to there and you also please reside in Nilachal. I want to be in your association. So Paramananda Puri, when he got this news from Kala Krishnadas, he immediately started from Nilachal to Navadvip to meet Mahaprabhu. And as soon as he came to Nilachal, Mahaprabhu immediately paid his obeisances to Paramananda Puri. And finally, they both embraced each other. And Lord said, I really want to desire to be always in your company. So I want to request you that please be merciful unto me and please now take up a permanent residence in Nilachal. And Paramananda Puri said, yes, it's his great fortune that he will get the association. So he stayed in Navadvip, he stayed in Puri at that time. And we all know from the pastime of Chota Haridas Thakur, I'm just relating those pastimes so that have the idea of who that personality is. So we know the pastime of Chota Haridas Thakur, when this Chota Haridas Thakur was also condemned by Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu said, I don't want to see his face now, just take him away. And everybody was requesting to Mahaprabhu that please accept Chota Haridas Thakur because he's such a good person and he didn't do anything. But Mahaprabhu was so much annoyed because Mahaprabhu said that being in a sannyasi, how can he just talk to Madhavi Devi, to a lady? So while we remember at how he was being sent by Bhagavan Acharya, Chotadars Haridas Thakur was sent by Bhagavan Acharya to beg some rice from the house of Madhavi Devi, and because he wants to cook wonderful rice for Mahaprabhu, and that time Chota Haridas Thakur went. But Mahaprabhu didn't like this because he was talking to Madhavi Devi and he said, no, that's not the right etiquette of being a renounced order of life. So he said, I don't want to see your face again. And everybody requested, but Mahaprabhu said, now here onwards, don't bring any kind of request to forgive Chota Haridas. I'm not going to do it. And later, all these associates, this Rai Ramananda, Sarup Damodar Goswami, everybody went and approached Paramananda Puri. And they said, now Mahaprabhu regards you because he treats you as the spiritual uncle, as one of his spiritual master. So why don't you please go and request on behalf of all of us to allow Chota Haridas Thakur to reside back in his home in this Puri Dham. So at that time, on request of everybody, Paramananda Puri went to Mahaprabhu. He came to Mahaprabhu and he requested that please forgive Chota Haridas and allow him to stay back in his house in Puri Dham. At that time, Mahaprabhu said that I regard you so much. I regard you so much, but if you also come and request me on the same pretext, then it's better for me that you allow Chota Haridas Thakur to stay in Puri Dham, but then I will go to Alanath and I will leave Puri. And then Paramananda Puri, when he heard this, he told everybody that no, Mahaprabhu is not accepting. And if you all want Mahaprabhu to stay in Puri Dham, then you should not talk further about Chota Haridas Thakur. So anyways, that was the incident. Later, because of this well pastime, the Kuan, the Paramananda Puri Kuan, the well of Paramananda Puri is described. So I thought that, this is also an apt thing, though it is being described in detail in Caitanya Bhagavata in the later Madhya Leela. But let's discuss that actually what happened, that Paramananda Puri, there was a well, a kuan that was built, and it's still there in Jagannath Puri. But this Paramananda Puri, they used to drink water from that well and use water for all other purposes also. So that well was constructed very near to Paramananda Puri's residence. And it has been mentioned that even Lord Jagannath knew that if everybody comes and drink water from this well, from where Paramananda Puri is honoring, so then this water becomes a maha. It becomes a Mahaprasad of Paramananda Puri. So definitely everybody will get Krishna Prem. So what Jagannath did, that he filled that entire well with that muddy water, so that it doesn't becomes useful even for Paramananda Puri for any practical purposes. So one day Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Paramananda Puri and asked, so how's everything going on? How's the water in your well? So is everything okay? Then Paramananda Puri said that no, what to talk about water? There's only that mud that comes out from that well. And it's so hard, it's no more use for any consumption or practical purposes. So at that time, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he prayed to Ganga Devi to enter into that well. So he said that I want Ganga Devi to descend and enter into that well of Paramananda Puri. And next day morning, devotees, when they saw that well, they were amazed because water was crystal clear. There was no mud anymore. And because Ganga Devi herself has entered into that well. And then Paramananda Puri glorified the well, saying that anyone who takes a bath, even Mahaprabhu says that anyone who takes a bath with this water will obtain the same benefit as bathing in the water of Ganga, because Mahaprabhu invoked Ganga to enter into that well. And later Mahaprabhu himself bathed in that well water and he drank from it. And he gave that benediction that anyone who drinks water from this well and anyone who bathed from this water from this well would immediately develop the pure love of Godhead. So this is the well pastime. I have not described in detail because that will be described in further chapters of Chaitanya Bhagavata. So, but just to give a gist about what is the well pastime, because it has been mentioned here that Paramananda Puri in Nilachal, such as his well described. So I want to just bring this point that what that well is. So we'll stop here, and this is the verse number 43. And tomorrow onwards, we'll discuss about the auspicious appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thank you all so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much for such a fabulous class. Really, thank you so much for clarifying the point on Shuklambar Brahmachari. Even I had a doubt when I was reading that part. And I also have one question, Mataji. This is about Rad Desh. So what is the meaning of Rad? Mataji, you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I said I have no idea. Maybe somebody who's Bengali can tell, maybe Anuradha Mataji can guide us. But actually the word is Rar, that I only know that. But what's the meaning? I don't know.
Oh, okay. Anuradha Mataji, you want to?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. I don't know. Usually Radharani is being called as Rai, R-A-I, like the mustard seeds. That's how Radharani is addressed in Bengal. So, but then I haven't heard about Rar. I don't know either, Mataji. But I also had a doubt from Kirtida Sundari Mataji. I wanted to ask that. So once you're done, I will ask too.
Sure, Mataji. And Mataji, thank you so much for telling us about the different names of Lord Nityananda. And it was so nice to hear about Nityananda's appearance from you today. Very, very nice. Thank you so much. And I think Mahaprabhu's appearance is going to take some more time. There was so much discussion before that. So it will mostly coincide with Gaur Purnima, maybe.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Very beautiful class. Thank you for reminding us of the various passions that we read in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was so easy to follow as you were talking. And I was just thinking about this point, how much you have probably digested, I would say, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's really, really beautiful class, Mataji. Thank you so much. It was so nice to hear from you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mataji, for giving this opportunity.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Guru Maharaj. Is very, very beautiful, and I'm on the same page as Mataji said, Prithvilasini Mataji, that how much you would have, what do you say, you have digested or taken it to your heart, and you were just saying Chaitanya Charitamrita. I was just feeling the same. So yes, it is so wonderful to see you so absorbed into Chaitanya Charitamrita. Seek the blessing to do the same, Mataji, if not as it is, but little bit of that mood that you have for Chaitanya Charitamrita. And having said that, about the starch thing, I had this doubt, Mataji. See, growing up, our saris and dhotis used to be, after being washed, they used to be put into rice starch, which is called mar. Because that time we didn't have all this ujala starch and all that stuff. And then it will be dried in the sun and then ironed. And even in Bengal, this suchi muchi is too strong. We see Srila Prabhupada, how strict he is about. Like even at home, we have seen it very strict. As soon as we eat prasadam, it will be wiped off because the rice is there and all that stuff. But somewhere, like how cow dung is not considered to be muchi, this rice starch was never considered to be muchi. I was just wondering whether starched cloth means that cloth that is after being washed for the purpose of straightening, we use the rice starch. Is it that starch or it is dirty starch? So I was that little doubtful about it, Mataji.
The starch, Mataji, it's only about the starch because previously there were no chemicals. This chemical starch is a recent thing, right? Previously there were no chemicals. People used to starch from this potato water or rice water. They used to starch their clothes. But for all practical purposes, it's okay because it gives a nice appearance. But it has been explained that when you go on the altar, when you directly engage yourself in the worship of the Supreme Lord, then your clothes should be washed, right? So I remember this, like my Guru Maharaj, whenever he used to come, I will always purchase a new, the entire set, the quilt, the pillows, the bedding, and I would make sure that even if they are new, they have to be washed first properly, and then it has to be placed on the bed. So yes, it's a proper etiquette to wash your clothes. Even when you go on the altar, you should go with a washed sari and with a washed dhoti. The starchy thing should not be there. But for others, just to look appealing, because when you wear these non-starchy saris, they don't have a proper appearance. The pleats doesn't fall proper. So, but for other purposes, yes, the starch is used, as you said, the rice starch or the potato ones. But for the priest, what Pundarik Vidyanidhi was saying, that for the priest, for the Pandavas, because they are engaged in the direct worship of the Supreme Lord, So they should not wear these starchy clothes. And they also said that, he also mentioned that even the Lord is not offered. But later he mentions that it's okay, that for Lord anything is possible, but the priest should avoid this. But we know the answer, right? What Jagannath said, that don't bring your rules and regulations here. Jagannath Puri is beyond all those rules and regulations. So don't condemn, don't criticize my pandas. And this is what you are going to get if you criticize. So that's the point, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. On that, I was just wondering, just it came now, that Bhakti Vinod Thakur also went on correcting those pandas who were eating meat and fish, right? That time Jagannath did not get upset, or...
Mataji, that was being on a humanitarian platform. Eating meat, drinking, intoxication. This has to be avoided, not only about the priest or the pandas, but even onto the humanitarian ground also it has to be avoided. So that is different. But otherwise, criticizing the Pandavas, we all know, maybe Preeti Vilasni can enlighten us. Even Ramanujacharya was slapped by Jagannath because he was also criticizing those pandas and he was sent directly to the south. Am I right, Preeti Vilasni Mataji? So this is how it is.
Yeah, Mataji.
Yeah. So even Ramanujacharya got the same chastisement. So when it comes to the pandas, those rules and regulations, the so-called rules and regulations are not allowed, but eating meat and taking intoxication, that is not even humanitarian. So
something like the principles and the details, Mataji, something on those.
You can say.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you once again. Very grateful. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mataji. It's okay.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. My downward pranam to you. Thank you so much for such a nectarian and beautiful class and your wonderful association. You explained so beautifully about the associates of Mahaprabhu and gave so many nice details. You also spoke about the Orna Shashti festival, which is celebrated when the winter starts and warm clothes are given to the Lord. And you talked about Nityananda because he criticized the Pandas. He was slapped for 48 minutes, leaving his face swollen. And he also shared the 12 names of Nityananda Mahaprabhu. Thank you so much for a very beautiful nectarian class. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or realizations, please go ahead.
Thank you, Shivani Mataji. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Kirtida Sundari, what was the benediction that was given by hearing the pastimes of bathing in that lake? What was that?
Hare Krishna, Mother Sucharya. So the benediction. So the benediction that is being given is that whosoever drinks water from that well will immediately get Krishna Prem. Because Mahaprabhu himself bathed in that water and Mahaprabhu himself drank that water.
Thank you.
And it is said that well is still there in Jagannath Puri. It's very near to the Jagannath Puri temple. So it's still there.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for such a nectarian class. And for me, it was like wonderful summary. Now, people like me who don't get to attend class like so regularly on Bhakti Sangha Japa group, it was so nectarian. I really relished so much in one place, so many like wonderful Vaishnavas, glories of them right away at one time. It was so nice, Mataji. Thank you so much. I have two questions, Mataji. In case of like Jagannath Puri and Panda, like I remember one time in one of the temple, I saw one of Jagannath's bangle was missing. And I immediately told the pujari. And then pujaris, I think they put it by evening. Somehow one bangle was missing. Maybe I remember it fell down on his clothes and they put it. But when you were mentioning, I also had this question that we in Atlanta temple had our Guru Maharaj disciple, Nandanandan Prabhu. He used to dress up Jagannath deities and all the deities. And last 1 year, he moved to Mayapur. And now different pujaris are doing. But I remember 1 year back, Jagannath had a very, very, very big and beautiful and opulent turban. But now Jagannath's turban is little simple. It's not like as it used to be. And every time I look at Jagannath, every time I look at the picture, I just remember that fans and peacock feather and everything. And I'm like, I wish I could speak. I wish I could just at least say that, can we do it that way again? But then every time I control myself that I hope it's not a criticism, or maybe this is how Jagannath wants to dress up. Who am I to interfere? Or and I wanted your a little correct understanding on my part, because every time I look at him, every time I feel like, this is very simple. This is not the way all these years we have seen Jagannath's turban, very round and fluffy and all widespreaded, and now it's like a very narrow and everything. So would you tell me, because every time I go to temple, every time I see picture, and I control myself not to speak, that no.
Yes, that's a good thing, Mataji. We should not speak, because every pujari who dress the deities have their own mood. And if you really want to see Jagannath in a big turban, then have Jagannath in your home and provide them as big turban as you.
I do that, Mataji. In my house, I do that.
Dress them the way you want. But as far as the temple is concerned, we should not speak, because every pujari has its own mood to dress the deities. Okay, so what I did before, I told Pujari that Jagannath's bangle has fallen down or it's missing. Is that was okay, or that was not okay, or was that also offensive? No, that's still okay, because that is something missing and you brought it up in the notice of a Pujari. But just correcting those Pujaris that you have not done this or do like this, that instruction should not come. Okay, thank you so much. Now I might be much relieved now. I have one more question, Mataji. When Pundarik Nidhi was sharing this with Swarup Damodar Goswami, I sometimes still have a hard time understanding that when we share something about some devotee with something, is that always a criticism? Or is that always like there is a fine line sometimes, right? Where there's a criticism, where we are just sharing. Like suppose I'm sharing something about some devotee. If you are sharing in confidential just to seek guidance so that you can how you can proceed further, that is not criticism. Okay, if you are sharing something in confidential with your senior, whom you regard as a senior, when you share that, and that too not with the intention of criticizing or to tell somebody on their back, but to seek guidance for your own self that how you should proceed further, then it is not. But if you say it, even in confidential, if you say it with an intention of telling something bad about that devotee, then it's purely on the level of Vaishnava Aparadha. Okay. What if you warn somebody about some devotee? Is that also a criticism? Yeah, that's 100% criticism. If you want somebody for some devotee, remember that pastime where Krishna, where king was distributing prasad to all the brahmanas, and there was a vulture who was carrying a snake. So poison, a drop of poison fell into that, and everybody got poisoned. And now Chitragupta was thinking, now who should be punished? Because it was not his fault. It was not the fault of a vulture. It is not the fault of a snake, because snake is no more. It's a dead snake. Then whose fault it is? So that was still put into that account where the decision was not being taken. And later, some sages want to meet the king, and they came to that one of the flower selling lady who was selling some flowers, and they asked the route where to approach and how to approach the king. And then she warned them that don't go to the king, because king is a person who is poisoning all the sages. He just warned someone for someone. So Chitragupta said, now this is the point. Now all the karmas will go to that lady. Okay. So who are we to warn? If we have the bitter experience, we only have to digest it. Let's digest on our own. Why to warn? Maybe, that person I may have a bitter experience with that person, but maybe that person can become a Shiksha Guru for somebody else. So you never know. Somebody else will get inspired. Everybody has some or the other attribute to inspire someone. I may have a better experience for someone, but that person may be an inspiring person for somebody else. So who are we to warn? So we have to simply digest that.
Understood. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you for clarifying. I'm very grateful to you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Mataji.
Yes,
Yeah, Hare Mataji. Thank you for this wonderful class again. It was very nectarian and the pastimes were explained very, very nicely, Mataji. So Dandavat pranams to you. Mataji, I had this question that when Gadadhar Pandit gave initiation or the mantra, how is it that he, after giving that, he could not feel ecstasy and that he had to be kind of initiated again from Pundarik Vidyanidhi? I mean, does it signify something?
I was
Or
expecting this question. I was very well expecting this question. First of all, we have to understand that it's a pastime to depict that how we have to regard our spiritual master. If spiritual master is on the planet, we should not approach anybody else to give us some Diksha mantras. That's the first significance. And next level significance in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is being described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami when we're reading this Antilila pastime, that how Vallabha approached. So previously, Vallabha was not aligned to what Mahaprabhu's teachings were, right? He was quite puffed up, quite proud. And literally Gadadhar Pandit was forced to hear, his Sanskrit poetry and his Sanskrit prose that he was writing. So Gadadhar Pandit himself, he never accepted any disciples. And he thought that, okay, I am no one to give, because when Vallabha Acharya, he approached also, at that time also Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu was hesitant in initiating him. But Mahaprabhu said that, why don't you do it? Because he was very close to you. So on the request of Mahaprabhu, he did it. But later he himself felt that somehow he's not feeling the same realization, same ecstasy in chanting those initiation mantras. So, he requested Mahaprabhu that why don't you recite again in my ears? And then Mahaprabhu brought up this point that your spiritual master is still available, still there on the planet. So why don't you do it? So it's just a pastime, Mataji. That's what I
so,
understand.
Mataji, does it say that maybe Gadadhar Pandit should not have directly given the mantra to
No, because he did it on request of Mahaprabhu only. So it's not that he shouldn't have given, because he also followed the orders of Mahaprabhu. But it's just that he himself started, not feeling any kind of ecstasy while chanting those initiation mantras.
But then why did that happen even though he followed that orders? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Because
I can't comment on all this. Maybe somebody else can, or if you can ask this question from Adi Khanda Prabhu. But what I feel is that it's just a pastime to show that, how one should regard one's spiritual master. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. There would have been no harm if he would recited the same mantras into the ear of Gadadhar Pandit. But he also regarded this point that how important it is that when spiritual master is there, one should approach one's spiritual master only.
okay, Mataji. All right. Thank you very much, Mataji, again. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Nityananda Thakur, while I was reading this episode is being described in Ante Leela. When I was reading, there was no purport to it and there was no description. The only thing what Vrindavan Das Thakur writes is that after giving the initiation mantra, Gadadhar Pandit felt that, he stopped feeling any kind of realization and ecstasies. So he approached Mahaprabhu to say those mantras again into his ear. So even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur doesn't write any purports to it. So I simply don't want to speculate and write on my own purports to it. So better, we should accept and digest as it is.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you again. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, anyone else? Any questions in the chat? Okay, nothing.
Hare Krishna, HG Kirtida Sundari Mataji, Koti Koti Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai, Jai Jai Nityananda, Jai Jai Gauranga.
Mataji, one time I hear in a Gopinath, H.H. Sachidananda Maharaj and H.H. Radhananda Maharaj is observing that Leela, Mataji, that they are explaining some Leelas, I forgot. So, Mataji, from last 1 or 2 years, Mataji, you enjoy all that Leelas and observing that Leela, Mataji. So we are not qualified to enter in that Leela, Mataji, like an ant lake. But you take us in a dham, Ekachakra dham, Padmavati, Mataji, Hadayananda, Sri Hadaya Pandit, Sri Padmavati. And you explain so nicely about the 12 name of the Shri Nityananda, Mataji. With your permission, I repeat, Nityananda Veta Indu Vasudha, Jahnavi Krishna Prema, Prabhu Padmavati, Shriman Satchidananda Bhavomatta, Jagat Yatra Rakta Gora Klevara. And that slap is given, that Leela, we can feel that Leela, that Sri Jagannath and Sri Balram and Srimati Srimati Shri Subhadrani, Shri Jagannath and Balram is given a slap. We should not find a fault from any Vaishnava or from any devotee or non-devotee, especially in a Panda. And Mataji, I want to inform that one time we, by the mercy of Bhaktidevi Tulsi Maharani, we went to Shri Jagannath Puri Dham, and Mataji, 3 times the police is not allowed to go. There is a 3 Matajis, senior Matajis with me. That is Bhaktivedanta Hospital tour, but they are not. 3 days they are not enter in the inside the temple. Morning we can hug Sri Jagannath Balram Subhadrani, and 3 days, and that all Matajis are aged, they all are become depressed. And I told no, fourth day I get such a nice danda from police. And then I don't know what happened, and I just neutrally crying from outside, and he take us that Mataji, Sri Mataji with me, our hand, and take us in nearby Shri Jagannath Balram Subhadrani, and we hug Shri Jagannath Balram Subhadrani round and round 4, 5, 6 times pradakshina, and then said, now you go out of this temple. So this is the mercy of Shri Jagannath Balram Subhadrani, Shri Nityananda, Shri Gauranga. So we should always pray, and we should pray to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, our Guru Parampara, and that all Mataji are so happy. And the Dr. Vishwarup Prabhu say, oh, finally you get the darshan 4th day after getting nice danda. Thank you, Mataji. Ananta Koti Danvar Pranam to your Leela, your explanation. You explain so nicely. Take only one minute. 9 disciple of the seeds of Madhvendra Puri. Yes, Mataji, the seeds is going by our parents or our grandma and grandfather. But after some certain age, our kids will become little divert. And then by the mercy of when the again difficulties came in the job, and when they are working and see so many death of Vaishnava, then again they come and hear Bhakti Sangha morning japa. They sit for japa. So this is also mercy of Shri Nityananda, Shri Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada. So seeds are there so that the flowers and the roots and in roots the seeds is there. So one day after hearing Krishna Katha and attentively japa, the flower and fruits are came in that tree. Mataji, you explain about the main root and secondary root and startup from primary Paramananda Puri, Mahaprabhu, and South India tour, then Himachala, Nilachala, please forgive me, and you explain back to Nilachala, Paramananda Puri, and Nilachal to Navdeep to meet Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you explained about the Madhvi Devi, that Chota Haridas Thakur. Mataji, we hear this Leela so many times, but still Mataji, the nectar is coming when we hear from very senior Vaishnavi like you and HG Kirtida Sundari Mataji, HG Pritivalasini, and HG Lalitangi Mataji is Chalti Filti Library. Mataji, you take us in a dham anytime. Hari Hari Gauranga, Koti Koti Danvat Pranam to your sincere Seva Mataji. Thank you, Terry. Thank you very much to take us in a dham.
Thank you, Mataji, and thank you for sharing that how you got mercy of Jagannath after 4th day. That shows your patience, and Krishna rewards one's patience. Thank you, Mataji. Okay. Yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for a beautiful nectarian class today. If there's no more questions or realizations, I would like to close the call with Kirtida Sundari Mataji's permission and all the devotees' permission. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah. Ananda Vaishnavind ki jai, Ramacharya Haridas Thakur ji ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Guru and Gauranga ki jai, Shri Caitanya Bhagavata class ki jai, Her Grace Kirtida Sundari Mataji ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna to everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Koti Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Very, very nice and beautiful class. So inspiring class also for me.
Thank you everyone for joining today's class. We'll meet again tomorrow for another beautiful class. Hare Krishna. Closing the